One thing I try to tell my clients, especially during this crisis, is I take them back in their life over their time, and we go through major changing events that's happened. And all of us have had something happen, maybe once, two, three, four times, depends how old you are and how much adventure you've had in your life. But at these critical points, they seem like, oh, my world's falling apart. Uh, you know, personally, I've gone through financial, relationship, health and all that kind of stuff. But every time, because I've went through it, I look back and I say, thank God that happened. It was terrible at the time, but I'm in a way better situation I am today than when I was back then. And back then I thought, oh man, I got it made in the shade and everything's cool here. But oh no, after that struggle, after that, I come out, I don't know, better, stronger, and wiser, and feel better in here. I mean, we lost a son at 5.5 months. And when you go through something like that, your whole world falls apart, right?
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
But here we are. That happened almost 30 some years ago, 35 years ago. That was our second child. But out of that, if we would have had two children, a boy and a girl and a boy, that's maybe all the kids we had. We ended up with 3 girls and a boy. And we're very happy with having 4 kids. But it might not have happened at that. And then gave us a whole new sense of feeling. And we've been there for all other kinds of people that have went through the stuff we have. We've been there to help them and empowered us that we were there for them too.
Yeah.
So, as devastating as it is, I'm not saying I would choose differently, but I am better because of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we of course never know what would happen if things were different back then or at some point in history, and it really doesn't matter. It's all about what you make of it and how you handle it afterwards and how you go through it and make it in some form useful for yourself, or at least give it a place. And of course, losing a child is unimaginable. I don't have any children, but I can imagine that it is the earth sinking away from under your feet, I guess.
Yeah.
So
and it's either in a relationship, husband and wife relationship, either brings you together or picks you apart.
Yeah.
Depends how that all comes
also how you deal with it.
Yes.
Come together, and of course there are 2 parties in this, so you have to do it together. It shapes your life, and it's just about how you handle these situations and how you come out of it. So and what you choose, because it's really about choosing. It's really about what do you want to do. Instead of leaning back and, oh, life happens to me. So
well, yeah. Out of that thing, and the wisdom of my wife really shone that day, because our child was sick. He was in the hospital in a neighboring town. Our local doctor wasn't seeming to. Anyway, we got a second opinion. It was a different town. We had our child there in the hospital. He was putting the child through some tests. And anyway, long story short, the nurse had fed the baby, put the baby down, turned around, the baby wasn't responsive and died right after it ate. And so they phoned us, and Carol was getting ready. I think both of us are actually getting ready to go to the hospital to see our child that afternoon. And here's the doctor and said he passed away. So, it was a shock. It was everything. But even before we left home to go to the hospital, my wife said to me, we're not going to blame. We're not going to blame. And that was probably the wisest advice that I got. The 2 of us agreed we wouldn't blame. And you know what that did? It took us away from the victim. We were no longer the victim, because a victim wants to blame, right?
Yes.
Well, if you stay in victim mentality, you'll never solve your problem. It's always somebody else's problem. Somebody else did this to me. We could easily blame the doctors. We could have blamed, we could easily blame people. But her decision, we agreed we wouldn't blame. And so we went through the whole thing, not looking to blame somebody, but looking at a way to come out of this. That it was something bad happened, and that's all it was. But it gave us some control, and that was very, very powerful. And I think the people that are listening to this, that are going through a crisis right now because of this, or whatever's happening in your life, don't fall into that victim thing. Don't start blaming other people, because when you do, you've given your control to somebody else. You can't, poor me. I mean, if you want to feel bad, go ahead, but try to get control and say, I'm not going to blame. Because if you don't blame, it moves you into a better place.
Yeah. Keep your power with you instead of giving it away in the blaming. It's part of the grieving of what people experience, and that's a natural thing, that someone is to blame or something is to blame. But don't, maybe that's what you're saying, don't keep yourself in that place. Just move, not just move on, but do something with it that's making you a route out of there and into a better place. So
yes.
Wow.
I think of that often, actually. I remind my wife Carol, I says that was very good advice, because that helped us immensely. Because I think if you get into that blaming thing, that's when you end up with a relationship that could go this way.
Yeah, of course. If you eventually you will blame each other, or closer to home than the
you get into that part of the griefing thing where I could have done that, I could have done that. Well, they should have done that, and maybe they should have did this, right?
Yeah.
And
Wow. Thanks for sharing this intense experience. Yeah, it's not
life, eh?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.